measured, but the president's been telegraphing this since his inaugural address. You may remember the inaugural address where he talked about American carnage and declared that protection will make for great strength. So this is, in fact, what he's been saying he would do from the very beginning.
So I see two issues here, amongst others, if I can break it down into sort of simplistic language as well. One, of course, is the trade imbalance as well. The second is what is seen by many as perhaps more valid than that, is that the appropriation of US IP illegally. On the former issue as well, is it slam dunk clear that the world has been using the US as its piggy bank?
Well, I think you nailed it. That's certainly the way the president looks at it. I don't think it's slam dunk clear. In fact, I think 99 out of 100 economists would say certainly not.
What about 99 out of 100 American businessmen?
Probably they would agree with the economists,
Yeah.
especially since our businesses are so international.
So why has such a pro-business, former businessman, or still current businessman, I mean, he's still got a vast amount of assets as well, taken such a populist view with something that doesn't actually necessarily have a firm economic rationale behind it? And we'll come to the IP in a few moments' time.
Well, the president, as he said, has been thinking these views, had these views on trade since the 80s. And, you know, he's at 70, 71 years old. It's unlikely he's going to change his views on something which he views as central.
I had an economics teacher, gosh, going back to 1987. He said, look, running and this is terrible, isn't it, really, going back that far? Running a deficit, running a trade deficit as well. More fool them for letting you buy their goods and borrow money to do so as well. You're the one who's winning in the meantime. It was one economic view, of course, and I'm sure in my Lipsy book or whatever it was, there was a counter-argument as well. But again, American consumers will face inflated prices on various products. American exporters, and I've just come back from an LNG conference in Barcelona as well, they will be devastated. In fact, they'll just flare the gas instead as well, because they won't build the infrastructure, because they won't be selling it across the Pacific as well, or via the Gulf as well. So there's a lot of, from exporters to those who consume, and we know that American consumers, who are going to suffer.
Well, 60% of U.S. imports are intermediates, and so these tariffs are hitting inputs to U.S. manufacturing. And so then ultimately it's the U.S. worker as well as the consumer who bears the brunt.
See, so that's one argument, and I think it seems that the economists, the businessmen and yourself are on one side. The other side of the argument, I think the president probably has a much firmer footing. And this is where there are other instruments that could be used rather than straight tariffs as well. The president is right in many ways, according to the businessmen I've been speaking to, that China has had a free ride on the back of American technology.
Well, indeed, the WTO system itself is not fully balanced. The U.S. and Europe have made substantial commitments, but China not as extensive. And on top of that, we all know that China does not have a market economy. And then, as you point out, the technology transfer policies. So there is a legitimate set of complaints that are probably most effectively addressed working together with Europe and Japan and other trading powers.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.